If you live in a strata building, then you've probably heard about electrical planning reports. But what are these reports? Apparently, every strata in British Columbia needs to get one of these reports done by the end of 2026. But where did this come from? What are they and how much do they cost? That's what I want to cover today. We're going to go over all the basics of electrical planning reports. The stratas I talked to are scrambling. This report came out of nowhere, really, maybe 6 months ago, and it's already due. The deadline is December 31st, 2026. That's not too far away, especially when you have to get a whole group of people in agreement to move forward with this thing. So, what is an electrical planning report? Well, basically, it looks at your electrical system. It assesses what you have in your building, what you're working with, and what you can do with it moving forward. You may be wondering, well, why do we need to get one of these electrical planning reports? It's all part of Clean BC's roadmap for a green future. By 2030, you'll no longer be able to buy gas equipment such as water heaters, space heaters, and eventually no more gas-powered cars. So this lays out a plan on what to do and how to move forward with the current situation that you have in your building. Remember, this is a tool in your toolbox. It's not necessarily telling you what to do. It's just outlaying all the different options that you can do with your building moving forward. It's really valuable information that gives you the power to make decisions that are in your best interest. So some of the key aspects that this report looks at is the biggest one is probably anticipating your future electrical needs for the building. It also looks at and outlines your current limitations about what you currently have with your electrical system. It'll also provide advice on what you can do currently to reduce the amount of electricity that you're using. Simple things such as switching your incandescent light bulbs out for LED lights. That will free up a lot of electrical in your building. It'll also give you some options on how to increase your electrical capacity, such as a certain electrical upgrade if need be. Mainly, the report focuses on heating, cooling, and EV charging. Now, this is not an EV ready plan. I'll go into that a little bit later. It's not necessarily a quote, and again, it's not telling you what to do. It's just information for you to use for the betterment of your building. So as we know, knowledge is power. The more information you have, the more it'll strengthen your decision-making abilities within the council. Some of the other benefits are, if you know what to look out for down the road, it could potentially save you money. If you're able to anticipate some of the future problems that may arise, then you can kind of get ahead of the problem and solve it before it just jumps out at you. This is also very valuable information for current residents and future residents. If you have some people that are looking to potentially buy units in your building or move into your strata, and you've already assessed all the potential problems and addressed some issues that the building might be having, that'll put future residents at ease and calm them down for any concerns they might have about moving into your building. And the last benefit, and probably the most important one, is having all this information will probably help you increase the value of your building. You may be wondering, isn't this the same as an EV ready plan? No, not necessarily. Although the electrical planning report does contain some aspects of EV charging, it's not a specific EV ready plan. An EV ready plan is more or less a quote on the cost of getting your building EV ready or having every resident stall upgraded and equipped with the electrical capacity needed for an EV charger in every stall. It's very much so based on price, and it's also used to apply for rebates from the government for EV charging. An EV ready plan is not required by law. An electrical planning report is. Although I do recommend all buildings get an EV ready plan, it's not as urgent as the EPR report or electrical planning report. Okay, so what specifically is in this electrical planning report? Well, the main things they look at, as I said, are the electrical system, or more specifically, the electrical capacity you have in your building. So the report will go into deep detail about all the equipment that's pulling electricity from your electrical room. So whether that's, the lighting, the heating, ventilation, elevators, it will look at everything that is using electricity in your building. And with that, you'll know how much spare capacity or space you have left in your electrical system. Now, we all know BC Hydro likes to jack up the price of electricity during what's called peak demand times. Now, this is when there's the highest demand on the electrical grid. And it's usually, after work when everybody gets home, flips on all their lights, turns on the TV, starts cooking. It's the highest draw on the electrical system. If your building or if your unit is kicking up into that peak demand threshold frequently, then you can expect to pay more and more for your electricity costs. This is where the electrical planning report comes in really handy. If you're able to take a look at your building's electrical system and see when the most electricity is being used, and more specifically where you can reduce your intake, then you'll be at a much lower risk of kicking into that upper peak demand threshold and staying in the safe zone where electricity is a lot less expensive. A big part of why this report is needed, as I said before, is because soon you won't be able to buy gas heaters and gas cooling equipment. It's all going to be electric. And as you can imagine, if all of this equipment switches over to electric, it's going to require more electricity. So the main thing about this report is it assesses if your building was to switch everything from gas to electric, how much more electricity you would need in the building. If you don't have enough electricity currently, it's going to give you some options. And the options are potentially making some changes to reduce how much energy your building is currently using, or as a last resort, maybe upgrading your current electrical system, which could mean, adding in another transformer, just upgrading your power in general. Deadlines. So we know this thing is coming up quick. It's already due by December 31st, 2026. And the government has said there's going to be consequences for any building that doesn't meet this deadline. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the penalties will be or the consequences in particular, but it does show that the government is very serious about this, and it may be wise to get going on this thing and just get it done. The best thing is you only have to get it done once. Once you have it done, it's done. And unfortunately, there's no way that you can vote to void it or somehow, sidestep this. It's just one of those things you kind of have to get done. But remember, it's for you. It's not going to the government. It's not for them to, take a look at your building or anything. It's just valuable information for you and your Strata Council to help make decisions and plan for the future. Okay, so how much does the electrical planning report cost? Well, when I first heard about these things and started learning and talking to different electricians, I was told that, the cost was only, $3,000, maybe $4,000, $5,000. Not cheap, but not outrageous. I think since then, the prices have gone up quite substantially for a few reasons. One of the reasons I think is as there was more demand and these electricians realized that every single strata in British Columbia is going to need to get one of these reports done, they jumped in the game. They started saying, we can help you out. And this is my opinion on what happened. I'm not exactly sure, but what makes sense to me is a lot of these electricians, which may not have had so much experience in this world of doing these types of reports, started, releasing these reports out for their clients into the market. And I believe some of them maybe weren't up to par. They didn't include all the information that they needed to. Since then, the government has stepped in and said, okay, that's fine. Any electrician can do the report, but it needs to be reviewed and stamped for approval by an electrical engineer. Now, when electrical engineers are involved, they're more expensive. The price will go up. They're much more qualified. They have, many more credentials and qualifications, and their review will be held at maybe a higher standard. So the prices recently that I've heard have gone up closer to 10 grand, 12 grand. A lot of this will depend on the size of your building. So if you have a smaller building, you can expect to pay a little less, let's say maybe 7, 8 grand. But if your building is closer to, let's say 200 units, then you're probably looking at north of 10 grand for this report. You can pay for this report through either the operating fund or the contingency fund. And just a last note, remember it's a pain, it is a pain to get these things done, but there's gonna be some great information in there for you and your building. And I think you'll feel a lot more powerful if you do have this information and confident on the decisions you can make for your building moving forward. There you have it. That's a high level overview of the electrical planning report, or the EPR. If you're currently going through this process and have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help. I can answer some questions and point you in the right direction. That's what I'm here for. And if you're looking for more information, feel free to check out my website. It's strongenergy-ev.com. And I'm sure you'll find more information on there. I've written a few articles about the EPR. I really appreciate you guys checking in. Have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next one.